Hello, everyone. This is Adam with PsychedelicInvest.com. I hope you guys are all having a great week. In today's episode, we're going to be breaking down ATAI Life Sciences Q1 of 2022 earnings report. So, for those of you who aren't familiar with ATAI Life Sciences yet, they're one of the most well known and well funded biotech companies in the psychedelic sector. So, what makes ATAI an interesting pick within the psychedelic sector is that they is their whole ecosystem. So essentially what they'll do is they'll find these companies to partnership with and take ownership stakes in. For example, Compass and Intelligenx, IGXT. They'll give them loans and help fund them. Uh, and essentially they help them progress their pipeline. And then in turn, if everything goes well with what ATAI Life Sciences has helped whatever company they partner with progress through the pipeline, then they'll be able to collect returns, revenues on that when the time comes. So that's the business model, and that's what I like about ATAI Life Sciences' whole ecosystem. I think they do a very good job in picking these smaller companies, or not even that much smaller. Compass is a big company, but they do a good job of assessing these companies that they invest in. And yeah, they do a very good job of assessing the companies that they invest in, and then due to ATAI's connections and funding, they give these other biotech companies a much more significant chance at progressing all their drugs through the pipeline and just growing generally as a company because of their funding. So that's ATAI in a nutshell, more or less. In my opinion, this is just my own perspective. They're one of my favorite psychedelic plays in the biotech sector, and it's has a lot to do with number one, their funding, and number two, how diversified their pipeline is. So, ATAI Life Sciences is you can look at them more so as a general mental health biotech company, as opposed to just a company that's doing psychedelics for mental health. So they'll have a number of other drugs in their pipeline that aren't psychedelic, but do cross into the mental health area. So like we'll give people relief with mental health. So for example, they have one drug called Etifoxine. I think that's GRX 917. So that's, for example, that is not a psychedelic drug, and they actually mention it here in their pipeline highlights. So GRX 917 is etifoxine. It's deuterated etifoxine, which the claim behind etifoxine is that it has all the benefits that regular benzodiazepines have, like Xanax, without the side effects. So I've never used it myself. I cannot substantiate these claims, but what I'm saying is in terms of as a speculator in the sector who's assessing ATAI, I very much like that they're focusing on non-psychedelic drugs just as much as psychedelic drugs. So it just diversifies their pipeline in a nice way. And yeah, that's what I like to see. So we're gonna go through some of their highlights, the pipeline highlights, the financials and whatnot, and let's see what we can kind of take out from this earnings report. All right, so the main thing that I noticed within the pipeline highlights was that ATAI is definitely highlighting more of their non-psychedelic drugs as opposed to the psychedelic stuff, which is totally cool. Love to see it. But a lot of this stuff is going to be non-psychedelic. So just a heads up for those of you who are hoping to hear more about their the psychedelic drugs that they're progressing through the pipeline. They're the only one that was really the two that were covered here that are psychedelics are the Compass Pathways Comp 360 and also the PCN 101, which is their formulation of ketamine which is with perception neuroscience, PCN 101. Other than that, the other drugs mentioned here are non-psychedelic. So yeah, so I'll go through them briefly, and yeah, let's do this. So basically we have all right, like I mentioned, PCN 101, that's the ketamine, that's progressing nicely. The ATAI's claim in regards to their formulation of ketamine is that it's going to have less side effects and just be more well tolerated than traditional ketamine. So this the way generally how most of the people in the psychedelic community feel about ketamine is that it is effective for treatment-resistant depression. So this is going to be interesting study to follow. Let's see if it continues to show promising results. We have Comp 360. So that's what Compass is working on. Their psilocybin, their psilocybin that they're trying to get through the FDA trials. Their psilocybin formulation. So I did a video last week on Compass, so I would highly recommend checking that out. I go into much more, I go more in depth into Comp 360, and I feel like there's a lot of value there if you're really interested in this specific drug. But to kind of summarize it for you guys on this video, it's very likely that Comp 360 ends up becoming the first FDA-approved psilocybin drug on the market. It's definitely going to be the first one in phase 3. We'll see how the trial progresses. I'm very optimistic about this trial. If everything goes well and the phase 3 readout is promising, this should move the needle for the whole entire sector and for Compass specifically and ATAI specifically. So obviously this is definitely something that this trial is something that everyone in the psychedelic community should be following. Compass has just started recruiting for the phase 3, so we will definitely be hearing more about it by the end of 2023. So let's see how things progress, and 100% keep a close eye on this if you're invested in the psychedelic sector. This is very important for everyone, not just Compass and ATAI. Okay, we also have Recognify Life Sciences, RL007. So what this is it's a drug that's being used to treat cognitive impairment associated with schizophrenia. So I definitely, through my reading, cognitive impairment or cognitive deterioration due to schizophrenia is definitely an issue that many who are suffering with schizophrenia face. So it's very interesting to see ATAI going in this direction. It's definitely in line with their whole we just want to help with mental health generally. This is not a psychedelic drug, and let's see what the phase 2 brings in the second half of 2022. Definitely something interesting to follow. For me specifically, this is not one that I will definitely read about it in any of the news that drops in regards to ATAI, but this is not something I'm going to be following religiously. All right, guys, we also have GABA Therapeutics here. This is GRX917. So I am familiar with this one. So what this is going to be deuterated Etifoxine. So if you guys remember for some of my other videos, what deuteration will do is increase the half-life and the stability of whatever drug you deuterate. So essentially the claim behind Etifoxine is that it is just as effective as benzodiazepines like Xanax without the side effects. So I cannot substantiate these claims. I've never had any experience with Etifoxine, but what I will say is if the claims are in line, are anywhere close to what they're saying, this is definitely something to keep an eye on. It's once again another non-psychedelic molecule, but something that has a higher safety profile than typical benzodiazepines. I think there's a lot of value there, and I like the fact that they're deuterating it because, number one, increasing the half-life so that you will have to take it less throughout the day is always great, and they can also most likely tweak the dosage so that you're taking less of a higher dose to get similar effects compared to something that isn't deuterated. So I'm into this one. It's once again another non-psychedelic drug in their pipeline. And yeah, definitely something to, once again, like I said about their the drug for schizophrenia, for the cognitive impairment associated with schizophrenia. These are mouthfuls. It's definitely something to keep an eye on. I think this is something that I've been like, this has been in my peripheral for a while now. I'm excited to see how the Etifoxine trial progresses. And then here's another interesting one, actually. So the Kures, KUR 101. So what this is essentially ATAI looked into kratom, and they were like, or Kures did this, but ATAI is partnered with them, and they found value in kratom helping people quit opiates. So like, if a lot of people within the psychedelic community are aware of what kratom is, so I might butcher the name here, but please just bear with me. So the most active alkaloid in kratom is Mitragynine, and essentially what that is it's similar to an opiate, but in terms of what side effects come with it, kratom, or specifically Mitragynine. I really hope I'm saying that correct. I haven't said that in a while, but basically the active ingredient has a higher safety profile than typical opiates. So what that means is this. So one of the main things regarding opiates is that they cause respiratory depression, especially at higher dosages. So that's how you overdose. With kratom, or specifically Mitragynine, which is what KUR 101 is focused on, the respiratory depression is significantly less, if at all. So that's why I can see the value in kind of looking at kratom as a way to wean people off traditional opiates, because that's what a lot of people are doing now anyway, in terms of I know of a lot of people who've used kratom to kind of wean themselves off traditional opiates so they can eventually not take anything. So kratom does have a higher safety profile. This is a very interesting study in general. Once again, non-psychedelic. We'll see how this progresses. I know, I think many people are aware of kratom's efficacy. And this will be an interesting one to follow. That's all I got to say for that. Kratom 100% has a higher safety profile than traditional opiates. So I guess what I'm trying to say here is this. The only thing that kind of irks me about this trial a little bit is that kratom is readily available to most people. Like, you can buy it online. It's very easy to get. So I would want to see what they're doing with their formulation that would make it, I guess, what's going to be special about KUR 101 that people can't get from the traditional kratom powders that they're buying online and whatnot. I guess that would be the only thing. And once again, I touched on this in the last video, is like, there's definitely going to be some ethical gray area in terms of when some of these companies are going after patents. And I think KUR 101 might fall into the same basket as, like, once again, some of Compass's more aggressive patents. I think a lot of people will have a problem with ATAI going after a kratom patent. Or it's not specifically kratom, it's for Mitragynine. And we'll see how this unfolds. But yeah, kratom is already available to the masses. Maybe they can tweak it and make it even safer, even better. We'll see how this unfolds. I'm going to withhold my opinion. But we do know that kratom is effective. So that's kind of the gist that's the point I wanted to get across here. We know kratom is effective at helping people quit opiates. It is not ideal for quitting opiates in terms of you can also become, since kratom does have very similar effects to opiates, it can also be addicting. So something that obviously would have to be monitored and how they go about that. But it's cool that kratom is being studied in this way. All right, cool. So let's get into the financial highlights. All right, so ATAI ended the first quarter of 2022 with a cash position of $335 million, which it anticipates will be sufficient to provide a cash runway through year end of 2023. Okay, so once again, like I've said in other videos, I love it when a company has over 2 years of runway, but this is sufficient, especially for a behemoth like ATAI. Um, Over a year of runway is totally okay. Let's see how things shake out in terms of, let's see how much their net losses continue to increase quarter by quarter. But as long as they have over a year, I'm not too worried. And we have, so what was that? All right, that was the cash. And then here, the net losses for the 3 months ended March 31st, 2022 was 36.9 million. So all right, so definitely something, once again, to keep an eye on. Let's see how much it increases next quarter. If it starts to increase if it keeps increasing in a significant way, it would definitely be something I would just keep an eye on as an investor, because where is this money coming from? But in general, not really worried about ATAI and their cash position and their net losses. They have over a year runway. That's sufficient for me. And considering the sheer amount of drugs in their pipeline as well, they're really doing a lot. So the money's they're gonna have to spend money to do this. And yeah, that's ATAI's earnings report. I honestly think that the markets will be relatively happy with this. I think that ATAI is going to basically lead the way in terms of companies that are going to bring non-psychedelic investors into the psychedelic space, because they do have such a diversified portfolio. Kathy Woods has her in one of her ETFs. In my opinion, ATAI is one of the safest bets within the psychedelic sector. And I really like them as a general biotech company. I love their focus on mental health. I think it's going to be very important, especially coming out of the pandemic. And I think there's going to be such a huge focus on mental health for the masses and just generally with people. And obviously specifically with psychedelics, like we're seeing, like in terms of all of this, how opinions are changing regarding psychedelics. I think ATAI is going to be at the forefront of a lot of this, and I really like them. We'll go to their charts to check out the prices and to see if there was any movement since this earnings report, and then we will finish up this video. All right, so it looks like, once again, generally the markets have been the markets have been green the last 2 days, so it looks like ATAI is essentially following the markets back up. I do see, like they did get a little bit more of a boost than sorry, that was even the wrong chart. They did get more of a boost than some of the other psychedelic companies, so it looks like the markets looked at this as a pretty favorable earnings report. And once again, I think that generally ATAI has been one of the more, ATAI is definitely down significantly since its IPO, but in terms of the price range or the channel that it's been trading within recently, it's been pretty resilient in terms of consistently balancing and not bleeding out as much as some of the other psychedelic plays, like for example MindMed and Cybin come to mind. But regardless, everything in the psychedelic sector is down a lot. So I'm not trying to pick on any specific plays here, but it looks like the markets were relatively happy with the earnings report. And that's cool to see. I think generally, if you can grab shares of ATAI under $4, I think that's a great price. My average happens to be $4.96. So just for full transparency, I do have a position in ATAI. But yeah, this is what we got to work with. We'll see how the market tailwinds or the macroeconomic conditions that are creating this market tailwinds, how they continue to affect the market. As I still think things will continue to be pretty volatile. I don't think we're out of the woods yet, but hopefully I'm wrong and things have kind of returned, or things are starting to be more, or the markets will start to be more optimistic, especially in regards to these growth biotech plays. We'll see how that works out, but I like ATAI at this price. I like ATAI under $4, and once again, I told you guys my average, so you can assess from there. I know that ATAI is also being added to an index, if I'm not mistaken. So that should also put some buying pressure on the stock price over the course of the next couple months. We'll see what happens there. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed the video. This is the ATAI Life Sciences earnings report. This is Adam with Psychedelic Invest, and I hope you guys have a great day.